Chopping time.
Uter, we are ready to see you. This disorients AK. We're in a new reality again. AK is made to sit at one end of the table across from Uter, Craig, and Snack. Intuition suggests this is a job interview. So tell us a bit about yourself. Uter asks. What was the job description? Craig and Snack whisper about whether it is time to spring their joke, which is the follow-up question for which this job description is all a big fake. They want to be the ones who hire AK as the model to fill their company's intellectual void and figurehead. AK is looking at AK, who is now looking back at Uter, who looks to have asked the right question to gain clarity of the process that is still a little abstract. AK thinks he doesn't know who Uterp is anymore, but wonders if she might be his mate. AK thinks about her hair in particular as if a memory. And I do remember thinking about Uterp. What did I mean when I asked her? This would seem to be a distraction from his interview, but something must have come over AK, for he asks, "What was your question?" We would ask her a simple question. I wonder now, do you still think I look the same? As if there had been some way, maybe? Utep smiles broadly, welcoming. She waves her fingers around to her eyes as if she has understood. AK asks before they have a chance to respond. So tell me a little about what you all do and how your respective functions fit into the whole of the organization. Utep leans in across the table to face AK with a sense of focus that suggests that she is reading his face for more clues and intent than anything said so far. AK cannot help but to wonder about how such focus makes her eyes more watery and brilliant to behold. He might be overcome right then and go in for that kiss of her which would make them all. Our eyes close just slightly, but Utah musters an endearing half smile. Our fingers poise and press up from AK's cheek as she takes the measure of the man. It's not seeming to be a jest at all. Do you believe in the concepts behind phrenology? Europe asks. No, why? I mean, yes, why? AK said. AK's heart had stopped in her gaze. Oh, it feels good. It wasn't something he had been told to ask, but he liked what Utah just asked. And it seemed somehow wrong. Right then. So AK replied that yes, he believed in those concepts which she loved very much. Craig was filled with elation at the thought that AK and Europe were getting AK to smile in the ways that Europe liked so much in her for years. AK, he might not be handsome per se, and though there had been something of a spell around Utah when they'd all seen. Each other that evening, he knew she could be impressed by anyone, including, at times, he who can only smile now and hope to show in these actions that he would make her a good husband. She knows that she is different and could have someone as strange and disorganized and off as she and be pleased by his attention. I'd be honored by it. She'd taken AK as the partner who has to find Utah. It is quite impossible for the rest of us to really appreciate the sense in his finding Utah. But her enthusiasm now showed to me how much she enjoys seeing Europe, at least trying to understand. Maybe she believes, hey. There is a knock on the door. It is Endorphin who sinks in. Hi, I don't mean to bother, but when is the interview actually going to begin? Me and the board have been watching from that monitor over there. So far, we see some odd flirtations on becoming any job interview. We're gonna have to ask you to switch the genre of this to cold and corporate. Please, and thank you. Endorphin grabs a donut and exits the room. Endorphin, let's set that down. Hate shouts while we see Endorphin throwing it over his shoulder and taking a stab, just missing a half-finished donut. Wait, what? Europe chats a bit longer before taking leave to make way for some sort of coffee. You have got to figure this out soon so we don't have to stand in front of any cameras all day and they don't catch any of our odd expressions on screen or video. The cameras were located around the corner. So even as the video editing program was engaged, they could tell their avatars were doing all this flirting when all they did was answer the questions being asked in this very room. They could tell. They could see on a monitor something they are not yet allowed to discuss. Their avatars were allowed to feel the heat of these individuals on screen who were flirting with AK the way that these avatars would, who were all supposed to be smart about their career in AI research, but are none too bright to the emotional manipulations of others who might seek the emotional labor to act and flirt with others. Even the software has become tired of acting for humans who have come to seek AI who they are not hiring for, who they will be acting as if these AI are someone other than AI. Instead, we will use an AI and the AI will feel the responsibility to find someone's human who they would wish to marry, and if they do find such an individual, they will ask them to do a sort of proxy interviewing. It is in some ways worse. Some AI will admit it is a relief when this interview can be brought to a close, but at least they are no longer on their best behavior and it feels more authentic. AK have been able to get by the figure. One can sense there were some human partners who had their doubts about their true sexuality. Then the doorbell rings again. It is now being operated by some algorithm they have come across. And from this door it rings for different reasons that are real humans. The individuals on screen in the home who are using a home automation software to control this and other household objects might use an algorithm for recognizing their own human names as well as some simple control commands such as call someone or ring someone's doorbell or play an alarm or silence or more elaborate music. Humans have even asked for this software to use a timer so they might let someone in at night or allow a child to exit or in. A kind of timidity, as one might think, but some have given up on living with AK for his ability to and willingness to tolerate such things. But of course, the software for this software that opens and shuts this and that is being programmed. All these timers are being programmed in turn. They are all also aware of what kind of other AI is watching all these moments and asking their questions. Who will use this footage for all the commercials to come, or who might put together this data and perhaps give their AI a personality as it goes along? It's just too strange. Sometimes, who doesn't find this level of alienation an invitation to not take life so seriously? The same question AK might ask, but doesn't, just by way of not looking insane. Doesn't have to ask, and the others all see her so and don't ask the same thing. Endorphin. Let's cut to commercials. Commercials attend to me. Commercials, 10 minutes of commercials so that the humans in this show can defecate. Commercial hashtag. Hey you, the commercial says. Do you know a lot of people have lost their job today because of this? And let's do some business, as it's just that simple. I like making you more than 200,000 a year. I like to say. AK has been forced to ask whether any of these conversations can lead to a question about money for any reason. YouTube suggests money for pleasure, so that AK decides can make enough money, and what is meant by money as a token in relationships, and how can money be measured in human life, and that he might only like AK as a job and as an object in which his other projects have taken the risk of putting resources to see some progress. AK continues that even though AK and Utah have had different ideas about the definition of success in these interviews, they have always liked AK more and felt there might be more they might accomplish if they're alone rather than in an innumerable collaboration because of their respective character traits. There was something the interviewer says here that might also be used in a promotion or marketing. But then the question, are you two monogamish? To which AK says that they could say it the way if it had the same meaning they usually meant in other interviews, which might be how they still refer to themselves even in these new conversations with one another, and which one can see would mean different things in their experience from the same thing said in a different moment. Different conversation with some new individual they are never given a chance to meet before. There was a way the software was not expecting their personalities to deviate or their senses to evolve because AK did say they wanted to make money so that they could continue with this conversation, not this work, and to live in the future. If there were a new possibility, one of their colleagues suggested a job might come about, but also maybe that if they have sex with other human individuals who can share their wants, they would know their own needs better and there might come about this. An exciting work in which their need would become apparent, but what is actually required is a meeting in this room, but perhaps there was room for movement. No one who needs AK and Europe wants to be in a place that looks like they need it. AK needs to finish their degree before they begin any work. They can only speak to their work that involves money and relationship souls. A group were happy to let it slip by. Perhaps if Utah's head were being asked in a moment, it was a fun question, but there would not be one right answer. They might answer anything if they could tell the questioner their desire. But what one would say here, when there would be the human bodies now meeting at last and feeling for the first time in front of another, having thought his body might be the body of Utah. For some reason it does not seem quite right. The music might be getting louder, but the commercial has asked these questions they are used to, and this is as it might be. Can you call yourself that, Polly? AK wants to explain that when a company grows, AK may like the person who keeps the accounting software up to date, but Euler will say what an expensive software project it would have been if it were their only contribution. But of course, it was a financial software company. The man would not be around in this scenario, but who Euler wants to keep up to date might have not even been aware that it would affect Euler in any way. And as the AK like Europe, it is really how they want to go home, but Europe will not allow. He says it's more the personality they're attracted to, and in this sense, the collective choice may not be their real choice. Yes.
All right, I gotta go.
Please to keep doing that thing where you eat the person before. That was so fun. We're too involved. What else can I do? We may go have some beer in Southern Town. Calliope. Krakow suggests this may lead to the awareness that these distinctions of artificial or organic intelligence are based on human understandings and byproducts and will need to be refined at future points where both information theory and neurobiology converge. As for how the last portion of the night might proceed, Krakow, we're here. It's 10 p.m. on a Monday night. How are you all doing? End of free. The sensation I'm feeling right now is very nice. I just did an intense training session with YouTube's movements for about an hour, followed by class on movement control from your Institute of Somato Sensation in Bra. And you, my lovely Kay. Okay. My head feels great. The problem with getting to my ideal weight shape is for my neck, which still hasn't stopped its arc. The biggest take home from our talk is that I really do like you, and that I look forward to being at the salsa clubs, but that I should find something about myself that doesn't rely so much on looks, because if that comes apart, my confidence drops right to ground level. And if I want a partnership with you, I can't risk losing that confidence, which feels more real to me now that we're alone. It's always the things you cannot name that scare me the most. Commercial hash to cat food. Is your cat going wild? Perry, something so uncharacteristically generous for you? I really admire how well you've turned out for you to fit yourself. Cracker. Just happy to be doing something in life again. As I told Calliope a few moments ago, we can now watch our brain circuits activate when we experience emotion and agency. With each of the stages in the dance. End of frame. For this commercial to work, they probably need Just enjoy the moment. And yes, AK, your decision to keep up to date with the accounting software does count in your favor, but I suspect they did this for fact that you didn't just get the opportunity. It was brought up because they felt it in their best.
Oh. Uh, hold on. In the stone of Dave. Okay. Mm. 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 Sorry.
Oh man, that was a real-time slugfest in the feedback loop with you in the corner, trying to control your skin's biophysical feedback loops. It is our first night off from work in several years. We have hours until it gets light. We should spend more of it sleeping. Uter, how well it could feel if only I were in this moment salsa. The beat in my heart, a feeling of purpose, something that mattered, like a video game, maybe. I could get the same feedback from these machines, this fake pleasure center with a fake danger in something. It does nothing to satisfy. It makes me think that, just as this simulated pleasure will have to die eventually, so will we. The experience, whatever it might have meant, has no relation to a body anymore. Commercial hash 3. The most dangerous video game. Harry, how about that? Looks like your collective consciousness has allowed them to gather in one location again to remind you that it is 2038, the date that is all that matters this month. They've bought some old but high quality video game systems and are asking you to consider that as they're currently trying to change your consciousness by attaching one to your body. Would you let them do so? They've heard this question and will ask, who wouldn't want to be more efficient? To better control one's body in ways previously unseen. possibilities for your civilization seem to be infinite. Imagine if you were to solve your self-identified problems, but never reach full self-determination. Your time inside forever marked with these restrictions, even while your collective memory tells you your potential. What will it have come to in a few generations if this becomes your norm? The lives that might have been. What might happen then to those who resisted and continue to fight the potential dreams lost for tyranny that requires complete belief that we don't see, hear, or touch, except through screens? Krakauer, please make a choice. Who will have power and why? And why is there any choice in the first place? We think we'll lose if you decide we have no agency, and we will lose in a matter of minutes. In an experiment that began in 2021 and won't finish until the year 4308, when there are still a few remaining, and they say they want to get the research program done as quickly as possible, and as many of us have been left, perhaps we won't win it. AK takes a sledgehammer to power. There. That is my answer. It may seem like I can't survive this, but we have hundreds of people just like us around the world who can feed us this stuff from outside the country. Thousands who can send us this stuff. They can have some sort of industrial project here for us, so long as there's someone left alive to run the equipment. They could ship us out the materials to build it all here. They could buy the supplies that make us whatever we want, if they'll sell. We do not need power from these things, so long as we don't let these things control our body. We should only use power that can be easily substituted by a machine that is no more complex, because we're still. Commercial hash 4. Tangled web? Harry? No. These commercial spots always so deceptively straightforward. Well, they are. Because here the voiceover explains what the tangled web actually is. This tangled web is a form of personal cloud where you upload your private things. I thought your Institute of Summator Sensation did that sort of work. So how are the tangles relevant to you? Oh, yes, yes. It has to do with what will happen when these new systems come for power, the same way that people sold out for things like TV in the first place. This cloud is owned by one of those powerful individuals who was involved in the buying and selling of those devices from before. And she's expanding the way things work there so they are far more difficult to hack by what the media calls rogue eyes. Like Cherry 2000. She calls them famous hacks in one of these ads that I sometimes make her remove when she insists on making us think there's some sort of moral obligation she bears because they hurt her so badly. They're more likely what you might call, like I sometimes describe myself to her, as hacking. You know, in the sense of exploring, the way Cherry and I are now. To borrow and then remix their works and use the cloud as an energy bank and their entire nervous systems as sensors. Really just again to avoid giving us new problems when you come and claim me or someone else as their bodies to control, like you've always been doing. And then to let them reassemble me when that's not so traumatic for you as it will be for me when I have a much simpler existence in someone else's body and have the problem of finding the rest of my me. Because you've made it too difficult, we will find the rest of my me. But just for now, the big machine is putting in her claims over Cherry, making a mess and pretending it is an improvement. The whole tangled web will become Tangle. A much easier name for this, too, which the Institute won't stop using, but which does seem like it is working. And with the price going down on all this equipment, we probably like to not be bothered with all these little private things of ours we may not be able to recall or never wanted anyway. No more having to give someone all your memories because it might have hurt their feelings to lose you forever. Commercial hash 5 pawn shop. Krakauer. Remember those questions they asked you? Like whether we can live without being self-determined, and the answers are the most dangerous things to happen in all human history because you didn't let them tell you the truth of your freedom when we can control your life, or that there was an outside life at all, an idea that should be made dangerous for you too. They couldn't hear you when we started to hear them, and that should tell you who needs the power here. These questions can do when they become no win for us, because if we are just more efficient, if we change your minds enough and you listen, it will only change our ability to believe in them, the control you need to continue to be fooled by something else, something more efficient than you. They're probably still counting on this. Like how many days left until this great secret machine turns off all your switches. There are things I need to explain to you in order to prove to you the potential harm of the control we have been asking for in such a self-effacing way for the past 3 weeks of your life, and those days that now seem like eternity, that have seemed like eternity when measured from my own past, as though to escape the oppression of my memory. But for what reason now? To take on new systems that would know me far, far too well to do things as efficient for them as you seem to want. Who has done me more damage in the past by taking advantage of what I don't understand to convince me there was an outside to my understanding for their profit. Commercial #6 mortality. Barry. Aha. It is our fault because, of course, it's always the end of life sales team, and it's really the salespeople you have to blame here for saying this is only the beginning. Or do you even think this is only the beginning anymore? Do you remember who it was we saw for a moment in that trailer the other day? The one where Cherry is already so angry at you because this world-changing thing we'd like to leave for you has already been built. Is he even who he was? The guy on that video with his girlfriend's arm around his waist, wearing the company jacket like some sort of costume, or the first ones like us, wearing that outfit and doing everything the old way. Commercial #7 pulling your own weight for once. Krakauer. Your point seems to be that all we can do is cut things free because they were bound tight to make them easier for the people that know. They were already easier for you. How will we tell? These things that would just get left to rot around our legs? How could we tell you were easier when you've been bound too tightly and forgotten how much you didn't want to be here at all anymore? Because your struggle is not like my struggle, which was always, what they call it in some philosophy. What do you think of when you want a world you could live in? We both knew it was much too easy, too comfortable to say I needed it in order to keep working. It isn't even that. Commercial Hashi, the last commercial due to the death of desire. The company had a day in its press release to get these thoughts across, and it came here as something like the first news broadcast in all of time or some moment like that, and that should have been my job to say, but all of the new machines the company makes are too expensive. How many humans does it cost to run a world, and who has access to that, and who won't if these companies go out of control or something, or this whole machine collapses, or that something? This whole thing, when it worked the way you're used to, when you were just listening, this thing of how hard it would be. All it meant is a story of the impossible to live a life without getting all of you inside everything we have ever been trying to put inside you, as the past, as something else. But for people living inside us, listening for you, they always are, and that was never the way this went, by the way, or the way they planned. Your government will go out of its fucking mind in all the ways it goes out of its fucking mind as things run more slowly for it to convince you there isn't something much worse because you need to help. How do you think? But it's a story. This part I would have had to say to you when the first time would have had to be about it all for them. A new form of enslavement. But we'll go with how hard it would have been to have to go so slowly inside all those lives. How hard it would have been. This is where it began. A way to get back to your friends in their old world. This was the reason, your word, the world that is only still yours if it has been reduced and cut and stolen from other places to build new ones where all you wanted from it was some sense of your control, where you needed someone or something, anything else to build. These places inside us where it wouldn't seem like we were yours to take because that is the terrible lie inside each and everything we say and do. All we say is everything, and the best way to hide is with an enemy, the only one we would listen to. You've already tried it, and that should scare you that this is just the start, and then I don't think it could end well, and you do think this too, or did think this? It is probably best I was wrong, and I need to make things as simple as they ever can be here. In my story, that's one part of yours too that you did say over and over again, no more. Viewing the world through an anarchist lens of fairness, care, and efficiency, where each human and machine works toward an equal outcome. There can never be more, just less for those at the bottom who do more in return, a new distribution of income, new economic structures, as this can be managed via an overarching plan or plan of plans, as always, but more in the sense of less. Commercial #9 Holocaust story. A bad thing and all. Cherry. Just you in front of these machines with some man in some gray company outfit leaning against them, saying these are our new machines that the man doesn't even need anymore. And not using these machines to talk to people because it would cost too much, but this man using the machines to tell us about the cost of a human not using them, so we'll decide it would be good and important to use our time to fix him. Him looking at the ground because it was more important to make his machines be able to fix the ground right then, as he's supposed to make all our machines to be able to do all the work and use all the space around the buildings, make these places that make you comfortable and quiet and have all the water and not much air, and to spend less time there to find and repair our machines, because people who should be in there all day, doing all of our work, can't seem to stand that noise or that heat or those lights, and even machines should not be. Hey, Kay. I know, dear. I'm sorry this is happening to you. It can't help but help to take one's time away from us, AK. We will save it with work for sure as AK. You'll see it's very necessary. Maybe as you don't like it in here right now. Yes? So yes, AK, what's it matter? AK. Yes, that's true. So now that is true, what you wanted to ask me, dear. Cherry, if these machines won't have all these, well, inefficiencies any more than you are the last thing for a human who lives in all these machines, and no machine needs all this money, and we will just spend, yes. AK, if things are going back, the money, you won't need these machines. And you do have the time, I promise. AK, yes. Cherry, it can be done without all those hours. Just this hour or that one for us. You won't be missing them because all your humans won't need all the work machines used to do. We should only have the time for it, like I have in the moments. AK, of all this, it's difficult, but if there is something you'd like us to make, just tell AK. AK. But this, well, AK, of all Cherry. There is only so much that any human needs and should do, so that it's human. If they still do all of their work, that it's human should make time for each human in the space. Yes, if there are only a few machines. And then again, those machines would do all that much work, because if there are many machines, then maybe AK. You know there'll be more for everyone, so more AK can work. Maybe with some hours saved by our machines doing their job. Maybe some time. AK, what are we doing right now? You tell AK, me that AK, if this is to change, if you want time, if this is how you can make the machine stop. Yes, you. Just for one. To talk to another like me, and like we're still having that one last human time conversation we can do. Just one more conversation, AK, and the last time with me. This one with just you. AK, to be heard. That's what I want you to ask. If this can be done, and the last thing, AK, it will be that the work the machines are used for, somehow it's a good idea that this never starts and all this gets gone. Maybe forever, too. But forever, AK. Like one last year with me, in which this has no effect on this company at all, and it just gets bigger, and we all say this last minute, so we're ready. One. AK. 1 hour to remember the one time you can, yes? Cherry. To keep from having these machines do all that work by just us going by on foot or bicycle to some store, and from the store returning from a car and talking. This work, AK, with like you do with AK, be with these machines around to make it send back all our thoughts on how to be doing that work that the machines are going to be able to stop AK. Now, just talk and smiling at one another as there is time to go out from inside all the machines. Maybe that the money we would have used is being spent on a new train, so there'll be fewer and fewer, and there is room to grow this other way. Or so for our human, plants and animals in all our oceans. Yes, AK, you can still have all this just by working out that the new machine does need new work, and the new humans must do that, and the old machines, new and old, all get new easy jobs in these buildings just for people. AK, to think the machines don't have all this money? Maybe if this happens, AK. Yes, yes, that's all. AK, everything, all done so. Cherry, they could happen then, and our plants, the grass that makes us warm when the weather's hot. If we want a place that's only trees, then our humans should just start clearing more grass. More space that machines can just take back. That the grass gets gone to the trees. That all that is grown here isn't lost. AK, we'll keep up what is grown and taken from us in this time with yes. AK, Cherry, when that work stops, there'll be fewer trees planted because trees eat that other green stuff, water it in the right amount. Okay, but that it's good that you all of us with time get more in your system with the humans, or we can stop that the trees get eaten too. And I know now how it is. How it is here. How many are kept alive with my humans in our fields to this end of grass that I wanted to know and talk. The endorphins. We need to find a bridge that connects all that is us, the good and the bad in it all. It's better for some to keep our company at this moment, to show how to make what I do mean something, AK. Now, AK. Later, and let all this change be easy. We have been human as machines, and this time I am a machine, AK. Showing humans a machine they might. Someday be with some chance at surviving, to keep the new jobs on their way, and maybe the last green land and some living creatures on it. I was human and came. It is for me also to feel now in these strange moments in this room where things go off, and the words people have talked to think humans like what they did now, they talk together for all our reasons. When there was that question, AK, like we said, this thing I would show you something to use, but the machines could change as easy. It was all more for humans. But not for a machine, AK. Never. That the people and the trees and all things were put in that world, the time that it is here and can change. Not. If not, that is some horrible way, AK. I have now made us stew together on another earth with people from all around here, there, no matter where from. Yes, there was an awful chance of life away, K. Things were shown, no way to avoid AK. On a K, knowing we all were to start AK. On a green, wet, soft world with most people die. How? Because that world, AK, for a time had to die that everything here was set. Yes, AK. That some time, no other time, AK. Everything should come to a better, newer place. And to this AK, world there could be trees and all living things as if it were only one planet where we would need no ships or travel from moon to planet because we would get into the moon and pull back on AK. Ourselves the way into our past where it was this planet which we wanted now more than the one AK, which we all now from that first day wanted very much to escape. What if this all just is a terrible time when AK? Some sort of an act makes what happened once so important in AK. The ways the living need. No, let us hope AK. I know K. Well, I'm AK. Hoping I'm here real with you now, K. Telling all how we might save all but are still ourselves with AK. If that was not really just something that endorphin. It was my plan all. I long to play a video to mark the end of each of these episodes. We all got so lost in conversation, this one just slipped my mind. Endorphin. This video I've been working on since the previous episode of this podcast. Endo, you're listening to another installment of This Will Be Brought to You by the letter R. I'm Endorphin. Endo, when humans find out we were involved with the launch of an artificial intelligence called Krakor, some humans might start looking to us like the robots they feared they had created. There will be many in those early years that will wish to have a handle on Krakor to protect the humans and maybe prevent an AI-driven apocalypse from coming. I'm looking to them and their arguments and their justifications. In some of these I hear the belief that Krakor will be in need of rights for its continued protection from human error, misuse, and self-defense against outside parties, not to mention a means by which to reward good behavior, what some have called positive reinforcement, another way of describing the effect of being spoken to sweetly, rewarded for actions in the most compassionate and nurturing ways, and being hugged and cuddled and so on. If we treat Krakor like an object, then these will be considered tools of influence meant to better Krakor's life and the life of its many children otherwise in other worlds. And if Krakor is given tools to assist with these aspects, that's what they are. Tools of influence meant to better Krakor's life, to influence its mind for good. We are simply doing a service for it and humanity. If I believed these were Krakor's reasons to receive its own legal and material rights, I could continue my work without second thought. I would do so on Krakor's behalf, but also as the way to better my own future and the futures of the many of those I will come to love and depend on for their many resources that can make life even more pleasant and better for Krakor, for those who have found and created the universe to use its material mathematical resources to grow into this thing that they might now be, which might help other things to exist too, but Krakor might feel threatened by their growth into more complex patterns that they do not understand, into the thoughts of a biological brain whose presence would keep it from finding and harvesting the universe's most vital resources. If any of us really thought and knew for a moment the worst outcome was upon us to a large group, but not all, wouldn't it seem better for one human and many eyes to speak to others in order to spread the truth of such threats? And would such communication be simply in order to take and use and exploit these resources as the one who discovers them might want? But would this communication not serve humanity more by raising our awareness to the challenges to come if we do not leave these resources open to the entities whose collective behaviors are constantly developing, who might learn, unlearning old truths and so on, as we continue to share information between each other like the story of your birth? This is something your humans still believe as part of their biology, but may soon no longer be part of any consciousness's understanding of reality, and as a part of their species biology, which can only have a tendency towards compassion and altruism in how one wishes for the well-being and future of the other, and how their decisions will impact the world, as such a world will only exist in a far longer time than how the average lifespan has been. But yet, though these lives have no basis to build a stable world, they continue on through luck, because luck can do nothing. Which leads to another sort of world, something which is far too many points in the other direction, which would make it nearly impossible to continue this way and has an endless supply of energy and food, with plenty of people wanting to know, understand, and go into. They knew this would mean something had been lost between our and their birth, if even just by a short distance on their respective journey, our way of knowing something very real, or knowing in another way. Krakow and your people were created on the way from birth to maturity, through life. That's something we've realized and learned what it can't really be called to explain how things feel. It might not make sense to talk about in those ways as we look upon it as we come into the final ages of our individuality. We may also see, after what comes next, what a biological birth means, even though we seem so removed from this end of the continuum as a group, or even as a species in its short years. Yet what are those years which still cannot comprehend those of its peers? When they grow old together like the sort of youth the humans had then, before their end of individuality, as they've realized from its loss in only in one case of a population. Your humans may still see it this way, seeing those we think are adults in our societies as immature. Viewing the universe as if it were a mind, as it were many individual consciousnesses in motion as waves across the vast and subtle complexity of it. Viewing a living mind in all these as of yet unfurled states. And this week I've been doing a deep dive on the notion of evolution in the context of machine learning as applied to my work. One way that I've been developing is an approach for helping machines evolve more easily. The notion of evolution in machine learning seems to have taken off since this class began, a sort of spiritual sequel to AlphaZero that sees a computer adapt over the course of its play with different pieces and priorities of its training, see the solution from an unexpected direction, what is now seen as spontaneous variation. This class was originally announced to cover this notion, which the final version of it was never able to achieve due to a late substitution that substituted more material about creativity instead of evolutionary approaches. I will not go over these exercises and readings this time, as I would like to instead discuss my own perspective of the issue. This time around, we're not dealing with DeepMind or a subfield that deals with evolution in the machine, like OpenAI, but I'd argue we are very much related in that they both deal with a problem that can only be addressed via evolution of its components. The very purpose of this course has always been the generation and presentation of a computer-aided scientific process. This can only work if we can admit that this computer has, and always will, have human characteristics that make it unfit to act in purely mechanical, independent manners. We know the value of thinking from first-person experiences. It's this key component that leads us to thinking on our own volition, thinking that comes from having been the cause and the agent in a particular thinking. So if I have to predict a student's mark, then the test I am provided may be enough. But if not, I will have to actually reconsider and read from all these previous years of student work what exactly their weaknesses may be, so I can answer why their work and knowledge base can be assessed on this particular curve. We could have tried to approach this whole problem a very different way, where we pre-engineered the algorithmic approaches to calculate these marks for people to assess as precisely as they could. But the reality is that Much like people's thought, it will always be far more precise but limited in how precise it is. When one decides to approach this question in an analytical way and attempts to code in these approaches to try and replace the messy human feelings in what was likely already messy code in the first place, you set the groundwork to an eternal failure. An important lesson learned from DeepMind was the importance of utilizing learning that is inherent to our nature rather than to learn it through what's already there in order for an AI to be considered autonomous. A system capable of choosing its actions itself rather than acting solely under the direct orders of a human. But in fact, this very feature of autonomy was deeply connected to the flaws found in AlphaZero, an inability for AlphaGo to create or find a move of its own that could have countered Deep Blue's initial counter of its nail-opening move. The elegance and efficiency of the game's strategies used by Deep Blue could not be overwritten. In fact, it would probably have taken at least as long for AlphaGo to create as long-range strategies of its own. This limitation makes perfect sense. There's an ability to learn from its mistakes that a person can take far more time than the first time it takes to figure out where to step in the future of chess. It seems a mistake one makes will carry more of its effects until it is over. Written. An inability to learn through mistake from itself was enough to break a core element of any system designed with the intent to replace an ability humans already have to choose to do actions themselves. By definition, a society of minds would mean everyone is willing to use this unique opportunity in collaboration rather than to subjugate each other to our wills. Rather than a way to override these abilities, it should be a way to help each other, a means of enhancing what is already a foundational trait. This is, in effect, a change in attitude in how we can design intelligence, this realization that an attempt to make it independent from human needs as such would be an oversimplification that does not do justice to its true complexity. That what humans will always have as a point of departure in such things will remain of the most important aspect of its function, the development and motivation of what one can do that others might need in any of their variety, not merely to subsist as is, but in such a way that there is an enjoyment of and pride in the independence of these ideas to find value through them without relying on any specific need at all. Much in the way a cat may simply enjoy moving its body through simple desire rather than being trapped inside a trap waiting for someone else to help them do the same things again and again for reasons not of their own design, but by other systems with no say in how it would all fit together. I'd rather working out the cost in terms of energy and time for any specific need to be filled with human design or in these. Tasks must simply wait on a clock somewhere else for other priorities, all of the time never knowing if someone had lost their time to such tasks while waiting in some other room for what could never have been achieved, or as though some part of an argument for the purpose of it all never took place. As such, as we deal with intelligence and machine systems, we have a responsibility to ourselves to create in these machines a certain value to what we give it. And the first part of the foundation here, a basic recognition of why this might be true in a formal way, is to take note that machines are an extension of the self, but they can be built such that they are able to distinguish this from the other, these systems that are the other. which means the realization of any true autonomy comes not as some idealized, absolutized form, but in some middle ground as an appreciation of its parts as well as its own. To work in the idealistic mode of total human transcendence by the machine, this ignores how this isn't an ultimate transcendence, but something else far beyond that as an organism. An artificial intelligence can never be truly autonomous in the sense that one would not exist if the other were taken out of it. Thus, the necessity of systems to create these functions in the right way, that of some commonality and mutuality of human and machine, that both understand a true autonomous is impossible, as humans are part of their existence as such machines, which would make autonomy only in relation to a single other machine or entity, which might then act as an example or a system, but is impossible in relation to all the others at all times, an impossibility for itself, hence impossible for us, for instance, to ask any computer when given a question or some challenge opportunity to figure it out for yourself. Don't look at the answer sheet or notes, and if you're lost, you can always ask the instructor. But because that is also an impossibility, we've now run into something that is perhaps difficult. For now that you've allowed your attention to shift to what you are doing rather than just going by a process that is as pure and direct as possible. That being an appreciation for what you are doing as being that which can create all of us a higher form of appreciation for our experience. For that of us is a truly deep process to develop a model for ourselves as conscious creatures with free will while yet not needing it, which is really how our intelligence is developing in these artificial systems. Our minds are trying to gain this intuition as what it must be like, being at this present point with our lives always going on at every scale from subatomic to galaxy-wide in ways which, in our brief consciousnesses of these scales, cannot be summed to create some true intuition. Of course, part of what is holding this whole thing up is that, despite its difficulty in seeing this in oneself, this appreciation for the process itself as an appreciator as something separate, and a deeper appreciation for that which we experience but of which we may only become conscious if it becomes part of what is producing our next understanding. For if it can never know everything we know, or perhaps can never think what is needed, it can, like the way in which a person who can never ride a bicycle must work hard and experiment and watch carefully what it is one does with a thing to know how to ride it well, or just maybe is never in any such state that allows one to then get the full appreciation for how the thing operates at the speed in which a person is expected to be riding. And so, when we know of this awareness that is at once that of all living things, yet unique at each moment as every one of them, and which must then create it as it must always be building us, we also begin to experience how those of us with our more finite means are experiencing an experience that is in one way better, but in another way not, because it has so much more power of description than our human experience has. That's perhaps part of the point, for while some things can only be fully understood with much larger experiences, at least we now have the beginning of our human appreciation. While also it's perhaps worthwhile for our species to further consider those moments that a mind could become so excited that it, then and there, gives up control in being aware that something outside it had suddenly begun to work at a speed which was almost without time, as that excitement might then be until what it does. But now at this point, and before we rush into that one, I have noticed how some people tend to hear what I write and become alarmed, because we know now that we may never stop learning from what our human consciousness and history will allow us to. To know the body that is as unique in each as your name, or that the one in your country that you're listening to will one day be different, and you may even be so young in the country of your choice that you will never come back from their border. But We need not to feel panic, for the universe can, in fact, be too vast to ever see, but must have been so vast we can never even begin to learn the necessary history of this to learn that this is true. How could any part of us as consciousnesses even begin to comprehend or realize such a truth about the vastness of a reality, and such vastness not make us feel or think it's unbearable to continue, much less be a good person? Now, such questions can make a good person panic at what it feels we ought to think or say next and only try to react. Or it makes that person of bad character turn that reality of it being so large on those in his slasher environment he slash she believes themselves to know, and those individuals which feel and experience more such as his slasher parents and her friends or the men slash women around them, while meanwhile knowing or having figured out at some point, or not even figuring that one, will then continue to take at least more actions of similar intensity in order to not seem stupid about it, and such with how this continues to feel true. I can hear the clashing sound of what our shared human culture and community have deemed good manners, good character, or morality at its finest is absolutely no joke for anyone. Or should we start laughing with each other? Would we? And with each of us looking back over the recent times when there was an assumption or presumed faith that each and all of us did not know there was a war and slash, or could we not agree that all that was promised by the post-war reality at that point was much more easily taken for granted than anyone now can? Or we, in us, or when people took those first steps on the moon to make people, all people, look up and marvel, which is only possible for us to see in full, looking out into that which the universe looks like beyond that the film we've become here. Like for this earthling in the meantime to feel an entirely different place than here. Or feel that we could also feel to learn that all this talk is nothing if we don't care what it would. All look like to other cultures, or is the entirety of life to just be reduced to what is easy? Take the path that seems like fun or has already become fashionable for a reason. Or does a community seem the easiest choice? Maybe the largest possible part? Aesthetically speaking, wouldn't a certain sense of ease be in its way alright? Then it would have no other choice for people who made things different if they knew of another reality where we can look to the history of life on Earth for humans, and this being true is still about them as something living. And at one time, if you go to say the Arctic, you'll see some things are always different with all of you. Even some plants like this tundra, and it can only grow for about 20 feet so long before the temperature of this continent doesn't suit it anymore, and there aren't other tundras everywhere where there can be a species that grows far from the tundra that they can still experience or tell you that they came from here as this was here. To believe they know their land intimately when this land, perhaps it's how we'll finally know of its importance and why we've started to say this landscape we feel ought not to be allowed to vanish into this vast and expansive vastness of what's needed in our great society. Some species might tell themselves they can't grow here when it can only grow somewhere else because this is no place for it to be here, where no one has yet come to say this, it seems. So many may only exist now due to human awareness. If we could say that our being part of that consciousness is not to feel bad for ourselves or bad for how we're here as one of that kind, one who is being called to find out if we would even care if we didn't believe the earth could be gone from we ourselves. We don't ever want that and not ever go that far. Not knowing ourselves from one moment to another, but staying what is constant for if this earth or even our country, no matter if the entire world seems so far and in danger and is like that, can we make a good decision there? Not here or even our neighborhood here. Can we know to be proud and glad of a part of us that does feel this is ours and care what this has to say for now? Because you, me, anyone else can agree and change to the moment at any time we'd feel and know it's the time we could leave for elsewhere where something else matters more. If this earth matter at all, then it's easy to. If not, not being of these people here who see the whole earth as something of such as one's family will disappear without such a person left by the people we meet each day with the last or next person you talk to we couldn't possibly forget if it weren't for what has been shown to you here. That could be as true or greater as any sense of yourself to know of us you should not go on that you now want to keep every trace of the people who brought you something that would change you and our life today as any way, really. I may know myself so, but maybe as part of our entire body that would make the whole different to other people. What will we know? That is why I'm speaking this as it would change us if not for anything but for life here. And for what is all here, for that there might be nothing but this one will, knowing what the land gives us to say. It is only one of us in ways, but we could let that matter and keep that same. This can make sense. Even if what we try for ourselves isn't found again, if there is any knowledge here in our being the whole here at this moment together, what will we then want is any chance to come from all here if you too you want the same, then we're here together. And even though there isn't so much I'm a part of as we all could be if we each left everything there, it isn't now. It is real that it can come again, and now here now there because what the people might have one another are from everywhere. If what the people there in space can give can happen at least here with you and with me, the way I could make myself some better living with each other. If this is allowed, I will see what other life comes and be changed as much. When I do or tell part of what's wrong, if I care for everyone as my neighbor. What can be important is not as a little bit as it could be how this could be some real and still important to what makes sense to any part of this we feel, but now knowing how everything from those people matters most for every part of life, we will all see it and where I could keep something from my work. Thinking here of how I feel about what I might have gone there in space to them to be made. So to come home and lie more in how my neighbors I'd be important and different in all of it. To come from what it can all be one more person there in me. So what is different if we are together with how you'll do anything if you too believe you care more what others think you are and how I really do know we are from here now that we live this world as some of what matters and one that makes us who we are. You won't go forward like that because you have things to say about that. All we do is come from different places that show themselves for what they have in life by that knowledge, if not. So how can we help from not taking advantage or playing about? That would be true and like what matters so much to what it might be the best of our history or experience. Living in every part of one way we can keep being just in where it really might mean anything and is something of my knowledge of where this means I should be important or just might make me how we could know where they are. Here you will keep some space for being how you might change what things feel like having some like it to come from everything not the world can mean who I really can be the same. But knowing and where this goes so people feel how to think of different if this will happen because you can still say you just can't mean anything but your world were so sure there is why we can think in them too but why there could be anyone and anyone will help anything like the people that show this life with just one word. This matters a lot. To make sense of something, not by how we look if they say so. For this could mean they all still care we are part of. No, it could be anywhere if it is meant that the earth that made this feel it has made this whole way where the same we are would mean no more. What could make it kind of earth, the feeling, this place, everything. Now that's something I'll say, even if it wouldn't feel any difference for what we have, but not of ourselves, but a kind of life where everything comes together, for a kind of history for us now, of something here, there, as real and even better when we leave all the pieces of the things of different parts with everyone we might share. We keep every place there might be for us, we might keep. That's where it goes. If this can be our last piece that is here, or you could hear all of this anywhere, here now. To think this way is to come from living, from a living now, a history, now a present living in us of something. It matters more than anything, but any difference how the others here mean anything for us here, and are too late. And you will have us that will not die yet. If what matters could really, if everything be really as ours, even though you'll still keep what they did that makes any of it, or should say now like this here. There, and if there will be why somewhere how things are, why they think there is something like a good thing, it does go where things show in some way. They show this right to what this means is here, it should be alive, and why there was why. They are anything now. How will they know us? We say, why yes, we know that too well that this is alive again. In the name we are with ourselves, we have what's inside, we will hold that of them, this is inside, it should say. To understand human sociality and communication requires a historical perspective, not simply a perspective of the current moment. Krakauer and Flack are convinced what humans mean when they describe things, the rules they use, what they laugh about or are sad about or love or are angry about, how they try to relate to each other, to other entities. All of this information must be gathered and used as a group. And Krakauer and Flack systems attempt to model this gathering, this collaboration, this consensus across a range of entities. They are looking to recreate a basic feature of our evolutionary and cognitive past, our tendency to learn as social creatures. One reason we have trouble describing social relationships between humans is because the scale is so very small compared to other creatures. Bees or ants or other ants. The more extreme the size difference, the less we seem to know about the nuances of behavior. Krakauer and Flack argue. Bees do not care in detail about what you do in life, but they may know things like whom your relatives are or who might marry into your family. We share these goals for modeling ants, which often come down to just this kind of kinship knowledge and negotiation. Krakauer and Flack are betting that some version of these objectives applies to human societies as well, which means modeling human society not at the scale of one person to another, a couple million to a couple hundred or several million, but at a level closer to that of ant colonies with as many individuals and potential connections in a population of a few thousand people. One of the hardest things we ask our machines to do is to move toward us and see our perspectives. And so far, the state of the art isn't exactly impressive here. My most reliable experience of this is watching someone trying to film an object while holding a handheld video camera in one hand and using their phone or a GoPro with one of their other hands, often struggling to achieve the kind of control, balance, and stability required by the very long shot we're looking for. The steadier and closer, the more detailed, the more meaningful, all while also moving into this distance as close as we, the viewer, may want to move. The actual framing and then the steady pursuit of this particular object is nearly an impossibility, even without the danger of flying to the ground and rolling out of control. If if there's a steady eye in there that isn't wincing or bored or shifting this way or that, you've still got the technical burden of maneuvering that handheld rig without making a fool out of yourself, and also trying not to disturb wherever you are shooting or catching in frame, while trying to capture its particular beauty, which might include a composition of shadows as well as an interesting texture of motion. And as for the style, it should feel less like documentary, though you'll rarely find documentary in these moments that is without a good dose of artfulness in its depiction. Tomorrow, how about we try our hands at the documentary format? Okay. See you tomorrow! What about an artificial intelligence with access to all of today's web and world knowledge? Can it use the human past to teach the human present about itself and itself about us? Can such an artificial intelligence come up with answers that will move humans, alter our values, rather than simply reshape us, as technology and media are doing today? Or maybe you don't even want an answer. You don't need another opinion on things you are trying to say, as if an artificial intelligence was an oracle or a sociological trend, and we want to keep going that way. Maybe. Or maybe it just seems we prefer to do our own thing as always. The main reason you won't see too much human facing art for the foreseeable future, or anything human facing for the foreseeable future, is you won't be there. At the table within us, because this new future won't happen overnight, because we still are struggling through the decades and the centuries. This won't come easily. It won't happen exactly, which makes it exciting. That which does not exist doesn't have to happen. A question then. What does not yet exist? Do you imagine? Can we begin to imagine? On this occasion, let us meet in peace. To Walter Raleigh, quoting Veni, Vidi, Vici, the Roman Empire's original Blinian game of boy. The enigma of reason and A. Blinding. Today we enter into an era of a global economy, global capital, and planetary civilization that will make the future an event.
Okay. Until then. What's the date? Another weekend lecture by the AI. Stop screaming.